Hi friends, Dean here with Escape to Gaming. Today is kind of an impromptu video response to a guy named Solidrev. He's got about 34,000 subscribers. Some people would consider it a small channel. To me it's a huge channel compared to the few hundred subs that I have. But I like him because he's very kind of an old school, old-fashioned, all-American male. Loves video games, but loves cars and working hard and taking care of his family. And he shares a lot of the same old-fashioned views that I do. He doesn't like to play video games as a female character. He's not into a lot of the kiddie, cartoony types of games, which is kind of interesting. He shares a lot of the old school. I think it really is a generational viewpoint. Today, much more is accepted. You can be anything, do anything, and no one bats an eye. There's no raised eyebrows like the old days. But I haven't watched his videos in a while, but every now and then I'll watch him off and on when I see them. He'll usually have some interesting topics, and some of them he's on a roll. He's irritated with something in the gaming community and sounds off about it, or a trend that he can't stand, with gaming today or what have you. And kind of like my thing on broken games, he definitely goes off from time to time, which is why I like him. Reminds me of myself, kind of an old school, typical male that does things the way he wants to do them and is not concerned with political correct and all that. Well, anyway, this video I just happened to see yesterday. I'm flipping through the channels. I haven't seen his videos in probably 3 or 4 weeks. I said, I'll check his channel. I had a number by showing several videos I hadn't seen. And one of the first titles I saw was, "Am I a loser for playing video games?" And I laughed. I almost spit my coffee out all over my Logitech keyboard. And I couldn't wait to hear it. So I watched this. It's a short video, but he posited a lot of the same frustrations that I feel towards myself as a subconscious gamer, I've loved video games my whole life. It's been a big part of my game, a big part of my life. Before video games, there was, board games that I'd play with my sister and my friends, and my AFX and Tyco, HO scale slot car track and electric train sets, and typically we're outside, building forts and tree houses and riding wheelies down the street, or building, Evel Knievel jumps to kill ourselves with our BMX bikes or skateboards or what have you. But I grew up outdoors and pretty adventurous, as a lot of males did back in that day. Today, it's people will stay indoors and never go outside, and they kind of grew up on video games or tablets or PCs or the internet, smartphones, what have you. But the childhood I had is very different from the childhood of people even 10, 15 years younger than me. So it's interesting how we all come from different generations, but yet we can like the same things, like video games. Well, anyway, Solidrev posited, am I a loser because I play video games? And after I laughed for about 4 minutes straight, I just said, wow, what a great topic. Because embarrassingly, I felt the same way. I have a lot of relatives and people and friends and peers, other people within the art community, and people I used to work with down in Los Angeles, and professional people that are talented graphic designers and painters and set painters and what have you. And so, and you'll catch up with people and they're asking, hey, how you doing? Or have you done anything else with your art? Embarrassingly, I'll say, well, no, I haven't really done anything in years. And they'll ask why, and I'll tell them, frankly, it's because of video games. I said, I'm tired, I'd come home from work, and I just want to get lost in an adventure. In the old days, before I could have video games, it was movies. I loved television, and especially going to the movies on Saturday and seeing a matinee. And I went every single weekend to see a movie, and then usually with my dad or my parents, we'd see a film, usually about every other week. We'd go to the movies on like a Friday night or what have you as a family and see a movie, but we never had a video game console. So even though I loved games and would go to the arcades, I didn't have that luxury of growing up and getting a Sega Genesis under the Christmas tree and all that. I got a dirty look from my old man instead, and was always told to push myself and do more with myself and my art. And so I was raised under kind of a staunch, strict household where it was all about work and being serious, and laughing in comedies and frivolous behavior in video games are just a waste of time. You could be playing great music on a piano or guitar. You could be creating art or performing somewhere or doing something. And so this overachiever thing was just kind of like pounded into me early on. But when I was old enough, like I said, I got kicked out at 17, and by the time I was 27, I bought my first Commodore 64. And I've been in love with video games and having my own console, and the fact that you can play this video game system via your television is amazing. Just like when I saw Pong for the first time, I was shocked that you could control something that's actually on the TV. That's where it all started in my mind. And so it was a height of escapism. Games like Wing Commander, this new No Man's Sky, very similar, flying through space, it captures the essence of escapism, and that's why I'm into video games. To be honest, I do feel guilty. I'll have people, especially the great artists that I look up to, and I feel ashamed that I'm not doing anything productive with myself or my art. I have so much talent. It's because I'm busy thinking about video games. When I'm all day at work, that's what I think about. I think about, my wife and I and our plans for the house and what we're doing this weekend, stuff like that. But a lot of the time, I just find myself thinking about, reflecting back on great video games and the games that I want to play this weekend, or new DLC, or Mafia 3 that's coming out. I can't wait to play a real, macho, fun adventure like that. I love the last one. And so part of me, I'm like 50-50. I feel exhilarated and happy that I'm playing video games, and I'm looking forward to playing video games when I come home or on the weekends. But at the same time, I feel like I should be getting more done around, my house, and projects are getting behind. And I went out last weekend and worked in my garage for a couple hours and got it organized and hung up some Mad Max posters and all that. And it feels nice to accomplish things. I had this back surgery and I was out of work for quite some time, and it was extremely painful. I couldn't sit and play video games, so I've had about 6 months where I just can barely game. I'm just now slowly getting back into gaming as I can sit here on the couch. My back is uncomfortable still, but I can sit and function for a half an hour to an hour tops. So my gaming has improved, picked up about a half an hour. Instead of just playing for a half an hour or 45 minutes, I can now play for an hour, hour and a half. So it's going in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it wholesale, big time. But, getting off topic here, getting back to the topic, do I feel like a loser? It depends on how you define yourself and your time, and how you define, being productive. Again, because of the younger generation, people could stay at home and make money off from YouTube playing video games like Phil at DSP Gaming and what have you, doing Let's Plays all day. And we live in a society where you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. You can come up with a concept, and if you can find a way to make a living at it, you technically can do it. And people do. They make a great living off the internet every day, or other nebulous kinds of things. I could retire and do my gaming and movie art and car art and probably make a modest living selling them on eBay or via the internet or what have you. So it's all kind of ties in with the world that we live in. But video games in and of itself, it's funny because my father-in-law is like 76 years old, and he probably plays more gaming than I do, He's very good at the games too. So, but he's played them for years. He had a PlayStation 1, he got a PS2. He gave me some of his PS2 games when he got the first brand new PS3. He bought me a PS3. I haven't talked to him in a while. He probably has a PS4 by now. I wouldn't be surprised. But he's an avid gamer. He actually puts in more gaming time than I do, and he perseveres and pushes through the games. And this is someone who built his own house. This is really tough, macho, kind of an old German guy who designed and built his whole house by himself with just very little help. Beautiful home, down in the high desert. And this is a guy that, loves to create things and build things. He takes apart two-way radios and puts them back together. People have paramedics have problems with their radio systems and two-way radios. He rips them apart and goes through them. This is a guy that can build anything, take a motor apart, put it back together, install it. fire it up and drive the car. I mean, he does everything himself. I had a wiring problem with one of my cars, and he immediately, in the 70s, jumps under the car with some wire cutters, and he's searching for the problem. He loves to fix things. So I wouldn't call him a loser, but it's interesting that at one time he probably would have chastised his own kids for playing video games instead of doing something productive. But he's retired now from the phone company, got plenty of time on his hands, and he loves to play games, and it's great. I get a kick out of seeing someone older than myself playing games. But the Solidrev thing, you could just tell his tone of voice that he's second guessing himself, and am I a loser because I'm sitting here playing games? Do I want my son to remember me as a YouTuber and a gamer and all this stuff? Or we should be out building things and doing things and being creative and constructive with our hands and all this. And I'm that kind of a guy. I wash my wife's car and my truck every weekend. It takes me 3 hours to wash both vehicles. I do my own yard. Lately we've had help because of my back surgery, so we've actually had some gardeners, but typically I go out, I just went out and cut all of my own trees, the tree branches, and my boxwood hedges, and mow my grass, and I just put some new, little rock pathway down on the other side of my driveway with some stones I set up, and made a nice little planter a couple weekends ago. And I'm always doing some projects around the house. I just went through and built shelves in my game room. So I like to stay busy and productive, but I have to balance it out. So as long as I'm doing something productive, then I can play games and I don't feel too guilty. But even 6 months out of work with this back surgery problem, I felt so guilty at home when my wife is working that I literally couldn't play the games. I couldn't rationalize playing video games when, even though I had all the time in the world. I would try to for a little bit, but it was very painful. Half an hour, 45 minutes was about it anyway. So I was kind of forced to stop playing them, although I did play. My friend George got me a 3DS XL. I started playing Steel Diver and Driver Renegade and wonderful 3DS games on that. And I could actually kind of lay down on my side with a little stylus and play, and it was fun. So I actually got into handhelds because of this back surgery, and my good buddy George had sent that to me. But the loser thing is interesting because my dad, I've been saving this for last, my dad is highly critical. Every time he comes in, I'm always playing a game, or he can see there's he'll come over and he'll see a box on the coffee table, because I'll always have whatever movies I'm watching. I'll put a couple DVDs or Blu-rays on the table, and I'll have whatever the latest game is, or two, that I've been playing. And I usually have them neatly on my coffee table. And he'll pick this up. Here we go again, back to the video games. Come on, son. Honest to God, you're in your 40s, you're still playing video games? Think of the years you've wasted that you could have been producing art and working on your business and really applying yourself, son, instead of throwing it away on video games. But he's always down on what he's not up on. If he sees you having a good time going out to concerts and living it up and living life and enjoying it, he loves to rip it all apart because we should be suffering. And can't you see there's people suffering in the world? What the hell are you doing having fun? So I have this built-in, Bible Belt preaching from my, the early days. My dad, I can still hear the voice, which is why I haven't to talk with my dad in God, I don't know how many years. We just don't. It's like nuclear fusion. In the same room, 10, 15 minutes, and it goes nuclear, and that's that. So I saved my father for last because he's the one subconscious thing where I felt that I'm not living to my potential because I'm spending time playing video games. This is a great game, by the way, one of my favorites. I absolutely love this. I was playing this last year. I need to finish this via component cables in my original Xbox up to my Samsung TV deal, but a wonderful game. And when I'm in an adventure like this, to me it's escapism. I don't just play like little mindless games. I like Trials Fusion and racing games, and I like to sit and methodically in little platformers like Gex from the old days, or Duke Nukem Time to Kill and the early Tomb Raiders and what have you. Fun little platformers and shooters. They're arcadey and fun, but later as the games became more realistic and there really were adventures from the PS1 days on up, I started getting into more, adventures. I want to, let's see what it's like to be in a Star Wars, film, by actually having an interactive cinematic experience. The same thing like with the Mad Max game. I love Mad Max. I have it on my license plate of my Hemi truck, and it's my favorite film. I've seen the franchise so many times. I was delighted. Even if we never get a sequel, I'm thrilled that they finally produced. Thank God Warner Brothers did something with it and made a video game, even though it didn't sell well. That game, or Fallout 4, I mean, these are like adventures that you can get lost for 150 or 200 hours in. And to me, it really is the epitome of escapism. So when I start to feel like a, quote, loser because I'm playing video games, I'm like, well, it's not so much a video game. To me, it's an interactive adventure. This is escapism. You can call it a video game. Some people call it art. And I believe that really good art moves you emotionally. Sometimes you can look at a very simplistic painting, but you look at it and there's something in it that moves you, or it makes you feel something. It draws something out of you. And to me, that's how I define art, is it's something that grabs you emotionally and it pulls you out of whatever it is that you're looking at. In a video game, even more so. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, then what is a motion picture worth, and what is an interactive motion picture / video game worth with your time? You're interacting within a piece of emotional art. It really is art. And as an artist, that's how I view it. So I have these little dialogues in my head about being a loser. I always have these deep insecurities. I had them beaten into me at an early age. And even though I can technically and logically rise above it and see it all for what it is, very psychologically, it's still there. It's a negative anchor deep inside that I have to rise above and play little mind games and word games with myself and just see it in its proper light and perspective. And that's what I've had to do with video games. The same thing with movies. I mean, I watch a tremendous amount of movies and then rebuy them on VHS and widescreen VHS and then DVD and now on Blu-ray. But I love films. And I spend almost equally as much time watching these old television shows, and movies and playing video games, because to me my time is valuable. I've blown my body out with dirt bikes and road racing and cars and high-speed collisions and crazy stunts and surfing and skateboarding and bikes and motorcycles and everything else. So now that my body's beat up, it's nice to just enter into the arena of the mind and have the ultimate escapism via video games. So to me, it's all relative. It depends on what you define a loser as. If I stayed home all day while my wife works and I'm playing video games all day and I don't even have a conscience about it, I would feel like a loser. I can honestly say that. I just wouldn't feel worth my salt, and that's just how I'm built. But that's me. We live in an age now where anything goes. You can do anything. There's no guilt. There's no consequences. Everything has a moral equivalence for the most part. So there's no one's right, no one's wrong, and I'm not here to pass judgment. And it's more of a humorous thing to kind of do a video response to. I don't even know if the dude will, even Solidrev guy, will even see this video, but I thought it was a brilliant topic. It really triggered me. This is in the middle of the week. I'm exhausted. Put in a tremendous amount of work, 6 days a week. I'm tired. I wasn't going to even do this rant, but I just said it's way too good of a topic, because many of us wrestle with that inside. Some of us don't, obviously, but I think there's a few of us out there that we feel like, am I too old for this? Maybe I should be spending more time with my children or my wife or my family, or whatever those obligations are that you feel called to. And you have to balance that out. I work hard, so when I want to relax and play hard, I don't want to have to defend my hobbies or explain myself to my family. So unfortunately, with my mother and my father, I don't have a good relationship, and it's been many years since I've spoken with them, because they're very judgmental. They hate my violent video games, and they hate to see the YouTube thing, and they condescendingly shake their heads, and I see that image in my head, and it's something I have to wrestle with as a demon inside. But I don't feel like a loser. I mean, to me, it's part of it makes me who I am. Because of video games, I've learned to persevere in real life. Sometimes I'm just obsessed with getting through a level and getting through that game, like Max Payne 3, tough one, especially the last couple levels. But you're determined. You want to see through it, so you'll find new ways. You'll think creatively of how to get around that problem. You'll learn from history and your mistakes. And that's one of the wonderful dynamics I attribute to playing video games. When I was younger, it was just easy to quit things you didn't like, and if you don't like something, you don't have to do it. But as you get older, you're forced to make it through bad situations. You're forced to find a creative way or a solution through a difficult, challenging time or problem. And video games are almost like the training wheels or like the training grounds for working issues out in your head, almost like real life. There's times where you're frustrated. Sometimes you want to play the game, but you want to see it through. So you'll sit there and you'll find a way through the problem. And so I thank video games for that. I've become much better with decision making and finding solutions to problems and puzzles in life because of the time I invested in video games. I think that's one of the reasons why I work as hard as I do, is because when I do have that precious time to sit and enter into the arena of the mind via a wonderful interactive video game, I feel like I've earned that right because I've worked hard and taken care of my family and been responsible first. So it's a real treat to where I don't feel like a loser. I feel like it's a reward for me for services rendered and for the effort that I put into trying to make my life better and make my life of my family better and make my wife happy in particular. These are the things that I work towards, but at the same time, I have to balance it out with my hobbies. You can't go crazy and just say, well, fuck work, I'm just going to stay home and play video games because that's what I want to do. One of the guys I used to work with, I just call him when I needed help. And I knew not to call him when a new DLC for Call of Duty came out or expansion, because all of a sudden, oh dude, I'm sick, I can't get off the toilet, maybe tomorrow. And I go, oh that's right, the new DLC came out. And he's someone that with a drop of the hat, he'd stay home and play video games every time a new game comes out instead of going to work. And I always look down at that. I never liked that. To me, it's like, dude, just be honest. Just tell me you're going to play Call of Duty. That's fine. Thanks for reminding me. I won't bother you for a couple days. But if you want to help me next week, when you've caught up with your gaming, let me know. So everyone's got their own deal with gaming. I don't feel like a loser. I don't think that Solidrev is a loser. I think that he's someone who's responsible, and it's just that it's an old generational thing. It's this built-in guilt that you have for not being manly and going out and ripping a 426 Hemi out of your car and rebuilding it, putting it back in. I watch my parents, my uncles, and my grandfather. These people were constantly working on projects and staying busy. The important thing is to stay busy, And then you'd watch them enjoy Bonanza or Star Trek or some little TV late at night. But for the most part, all I ever saw is these guys kill themselves with very little fun in their life. And I said, there has to be more to life than just working, killing yourself, and then dying at the end of the day. So for me, I love music, I love movies, and I love video games. And I won't apologize for it. I think that I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know that I'd want everyone at work knowing that I have a YouTube channel and that I play a lot of games. And eventually, if I find out that there's other people that are gamers, one of the guys that's at my paint store where I pick up a lot of my materials and paint is an avid gamer. And it's great. I go in there and we just talk whatever the latest game, and lately it's been the Fallout 4 DLC expansion packs, and it's just nice to talk with someone that's into gaming. And I think because I don't have a lot of friends in real life anymore that are gamers, I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy YouTube and social media and Twitter and Facebook and all that with all my gaming friends, because it's a great way to connect with people that love the same thing, and they find you through YouTube. In real life, I can't find, other than my nephew who comes by once or twice a year, there's like no one to play split screen with or to play gaming locally with anymore, which is sad. That was mostly the 90s. That kind of went out with the late 90s and early 2000s. I had friends that would come up from out of town, an hour and a half drive, and spend a night or a couple nights just to play video games. So those were the good old days. I miss that. Today it's been replaced with online multiplayer, but for me, I still like the interaction with humans and good friends. And video games is a substitute even for friends and for, I think, for the many of the social things. I was never at home. Every weekend I was out at parties and concerts and doing stuff. And I've just slowed down. I'm kind of tired of doing all that stuff. And I've seen it all and done it all. So to me, the mind is the last wonderful free frontier left. And that's why I love video games. So I don't feel like a loser. I don't think he's a loser. I don't think anyone else is for playing them. I just think you have to be responsible. Each person knows within their own criteria of what they need to do to be successful or to be productive or to take care of their responsibilities. And I think as long as that's all in check, gaming's a great deal. I don't see anything for it. That's a negative. There are times I still feel that loser thing. I should be creating artwork and doing something productive, I have a little guilt because of that. But I try to balance that out at the end of the day. So anyways, a long-winded VR. It's just one of those crazy rants. A little tired after work, but it's something that I thought was a hilarious video. I enjoyed watching Solidrev's video on it and seeing his dilemma and how he was blowing it out of proportion, perhaps. I thought was quite comical, and I had to do a response to it. Just my own take on it, because I've dealt with this again. What do you how do you feel? I did a video, I think something about being judged as a gamer, a quote gamer. Oh, you're one of those gamers, And it has a lot of similar things. You can watch that. It's an older rant somewhere in my archives. But anyway, that's my long-winded little deal on it. I think that each person has to decide in their own mind, what they want to live for, what's important to them. And I think that guilt is an overrated emotion. I think that feeling guilty for doing anything is not necessarily healthy. It's good to have a little positive pressure, to have the carrot and the stick, a little motivation. But I think that guilt is, way overblown out, and I try to stay away from it personally. So I don't like labels, and I certainly don't like the loser label. I know that's precisely how my parents see me, and that's their prerogative. It's unfortunate. Perhaps we'd have a better relationship if they could see the positive that's in gaming, and they could see how much joy that I really do get out of it, and how it balances out my life as well as it does. It's a wonderful hobby, and I love YouTube for the same reason, and I want to apologize for it. So anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching, and enjoy your games.